Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. I haven't done one in a while, but if it's your first time here, my name is Coin, and today I'll be ranking the Last of Us episodes from Season 1. So I usually do my tier list videos with my friend, but she hasn't watched the show, so I'll be doing this on my own, which might be a bit more boring than usual, but please bear with me. So as you can tell from the title, I am currently in my Pedro Pascal era, so I am legally obligated to do a tier list video about his show. And just a quick disclaimer, I haven't watched episode 9 yet because I don't have HBO Max, and I watched the show on one of those really random sites that bounce out lots of ads when you accidentally click your mouse one time, and the website that I watch it on hasn't updated the most recent episode, which is the finale. So I need to emotionally prepare myself before watching the finale, just because, spoiler alert, if you haven't played the games, this might be the last time we see Joel alive and well, because he's probably gonna go golfing soon in the next season, and I am really not looking forward to that. So, this episode is going to be split into two parts. I'll just be ranking the first 4 episodes today. And this is just my personal opinion on the episodes. I know other people probably have different rankings, so if you have other thoughts, just leave them in the comments. As you can see, the tiers that I've made today are as follows: best of the best, amazing episode, solid episode, meh, and nah fam. But to be honest, I feel like most of the episodes were really good, so the bottom 2 tiers probably won't be used. So without further ado, let's start with episode 1. Which is titled When You're Lost in the Darkness. I really like this episode. I think it was a great start to the series. The introduction to the episode was also great. I saw some people, like some microbiologists, say that the way they explained the infamous zombie ant in the beginning of the interview, like in the beginning of the episode, and how parasites work was actually really accurate. The prologue with Sarah was brutal. I watched that part with my mom, and we both cried our eyes out when she died. Both Pedro and Nico did a great job acting in that death scene. When Pedro said, "Tommy, help me!" I just completely lost it. Like, I was sobbing my eyes out. I liked how in the show they showed a lot more of Joel and Sarah in their civilian life. If you've ever played the games, you know that in the first game, it pretty much jumps straight into chaos, so I liked seeing the slow progression and little clues that lead you up into the outbreak. They did make a few small changes from the game. For instance, in the game, you don't really get too much info on Joel's background. They don't even reveal his last name until the second game, I think. But in the show, you learn that he's a military vet, and that sort of explains why he's so skilled at combat and has such great survival skills. And I like that small details like this go a really long way to fleshing out the characters, and I really like that. They also did a nice introduction to Ellie and who the Fireflies were, and I like that they actually had a bit of background as to how Joel and Tess were more tied to Robert and like their motivation to, I guess, attacking him. Because if you play the games, it's sort of just like, oh, this guy stole some stuff for us, let's go kill him. But in the show, they included the object of the battery and some of Joel and Tess's motivations, which is a nice detail. So overall, good introduction to the Fireflies, good introduction to the characters in general, and some good background information. Can't really complain, it was a great episode, so overall, I would put this episode in amazing episode. By the way, I think I'm starting to get a little bit sick, so if my voice is like pretty bad, just bear with me. In episode 2, titled Infected, it shows Joel, Tess, and Ellie going through the flooded Boston hotel on their way to drop Ellie off with a group of Fireflies, and I really like this episode too, not too much to complain about. I know some people said that they thought that Tess's death was much better in the game. In the game, basically, Tess dies by fending off Fedra, knowing that they'd finally shoot her down. But in the show, they changed it from that to her bombing herself to buy time for Joel and Ellie. And honestly, I think it was fine. I don't think her death was any less heroic than in the games. You know, she came to terms with her upcoming death and wanted to take out the horde of infected. in terms of the show, it makes sense given how fast everything happened and how panic sets in. But I will say that that kiss was disgusting. Anyways, this episode this episode did a great job of starting to introduce Ellie's personality. I think Bella Ramsey did a great job in this episode, and the most important part of this episode was just getting the setting right, and you could see that the relationship between Ellie and Joel starts to become, I guess, a little bit more solid. Like, they actually start to talk to each other instead of just like glaring at each other the entire time. And it works, you know, you can feel the chemistry between them growing a little bit, and I like that there's a bit more action in this episode compared to the episodes later on. Yeah, I think this episode was good. I like that there was a bit more action in this episode compared to the later ones. So yeah, I'll put this in the amazing episode tier. Alright, so episode 3, titled Long Long Time. So this episode is more of a standalone episode. It doesn't really progress the main story of Joel bringing Ellie to the Fireflies too much, but it gives a great exploration into Bill and Frank's backstory. This episode was very, very devastating. I tear up a decent amount at sad scenes in movies and TV shows, and this is probably the few that like made me cry a lot. Incredible acting all around. It was a great touch to have Bill make the first meal he ever gave Frank as his last meal, right before they died. I especially like the strawberry scene. That little giggle that Bill lets out when they're eating the strawberries was just so endearing. And I think this whole episode really made me think about just aging in general in life, and giving Ellie a mini arc of being, I guess, totally unapologetic about Tessa's death, to eventually bringing her around to their original conversation from the game was awesome, and her reactions to being in a car for the first time were also really cute. Joel and Ellie start to have some pretty funny banter in this episode, which I think is really nice, and I thought that the part where Ellie says,
"Well, don't you look pretty?"
to Joel was really funny because he basically just side-eyes her and tells her to shut up. And killing Bill before Joel and Ellie got to town definitely deviated from the game, but I'm okay with it the way the show did it, because we got a lot more of Bill and Frank's story that we didn't get from the game, and this just wrecked me emotionally. I'd say this is probably one of my favorite episodes. I might have to make, you know what, I'm just gonna make another tier for this episode and just call it emotionally, mentally, physically hurt me. Yep, I'm gonna put this episode in its own tier list because it wrecked me. And finally, we have episode 4, which is titled Please Hold On to My Hand. So this episode shows the troubles that Joel and Ellie run into when they attempt to escape after they abandon their truck in Kansas City. One of the better parts of this episode comes from the camaraderie that has started to build between Joel and Ellie. I think it was really funny when Joel and Ellie, like especially in the car scene where Ellie had the magazine and says,
"Why are all these pages stuck together?"
The dialogue between Joel and Ellie was really funny in the car, and there's also some really nice dialogue ripped from the games too, specifically those moments that were initially intended for Bill's town. The repurposed Bill dialogue and the pun comic book really helped add in some humor. All of that stuff was really great, and you can see that the pair slowly start to learn to trust each other. The little change with Ellie shooting one of the men to save Joel, and him having to eventually finish him off, is a good detail to show that the trust that the pair have for one another. I've heard some people complain that this show doesn't have enough action. There was a little bit of action in this episode where Joel and Ellie were getting attacked by the 3 men, and I'll be honest, I wish this attack scene was a bit more suspenseful. In the games, it's absolutely insane and wrecked with tension, but the way they did it in the show was a bit different. However, I don't think it was necessarily due to the lack of action. Maybe it's just due to the camera movement or angles, but I'm not a filmmaker, I don't know anything. A general complaint I've seen people have about the show is that there isn't enough action. Like, I get where they're coming from, but in the games, your main gameplay is fighting against the cordyceps. Like, without that, the game would have been really boring. In the show, however, they're going to focus on the characters. You know, it's a TV show, they're going to focus on adding more depth and background to the characters rather than just having, I guess, the same action sequence over and over. And I don't really mind that, you know, it's a TV show. The end of the episode where Joel laughed at Ellie's diarrhea comment was also really cute. You can tell that he's really starting to enjoy her company a bit. So overall, solid episode. But I did like the first 3 episodes a bit more than episode 4, so I think I'll be putting this episode in the solid episode tier. So that's it for the video. I'm going to be ranking episodes 5 to 9 in a part 2, just because I haven't watched episode 9 yet. I Wish Toenail, which if you don't know is my friend that I usually do these videos with, was recording with me right now, but she hasn't watched the show. And she's pretty busy with school right now. I'll probably force her to watch the show with me when she's less busy, and hopefully she likes it. But anyways, thanks for watching this tier list video. Let me know if you agree with my rankings in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the video.